Hello, every pony, and welcome to Sequel Sundays. Wow, weekends. Um, Superfluous Saturdays. Oh well, I'll think of a name for it later, audience. But for right now, yes, as promised, we are doing the rest of season 3 of Witch. Why? Because got started, I felt like we ended too bad, and I want to finish this sucker. It's complete. It's over. I want to see where the rest of this ends. So, step back, relax, as we here at the Treeberry Memorial Library presents to you Wits Season 3, Part 2, Heart by Heart of Meridian. Chapter 13, After School Special. Caleb hit the ground. The leaping animal sailed over his head and right into Fat Tack's fist. It crumbled to the ground. Thanks, old friend, Caleb said. Anytime, Fat Tack replied. Chaos didn't quite describe it. The creatures had attacked Meridian's market square without warning, and this time they were faster, stronger, and there were more of them. Between the running people, shouts of panic, and the quick strikes of the creatures, they were all having a hard time getting their bearings. Caleb had no problem finding his next target, though. Right in front of him, staring him down, was a city creature as big as a house. Caleb was searching for a weakness in vain when an arrow came out of nowhere and pierced the creature's neck. Caleb looked for the source and found Wally loading another shot. Thanks for the assist, Caleb said. No sign of them in 3 days. Then their biggest attack yet. Why? I don't know, Caleb said with a shrug. They're just animals. Maybe it's not like they planned it. No, I think I know where Wally's going with this, Aldard said, coming over to join them. Animals would just keep attacking until they either won or died. There's much to be organized. I have to admit, if I was planning an attack, this is how I would do it. We have to worry about the citizens just as much as ourselves, Caleb said. Then the question remains, Wally said. Who's controlling them and why? None of them had an answer for this. Caleb still wasn't convinced that there was someone behind this. Why go all this trouble? What do they have to gain? Caleb, perhaps you should call the Guardians, Aldard said, defending himself from another attack. Can't, Caleb said. I talked to Cornelia yesterday. They're busy. Unfortunate, yeah. Well, Alderaan added, guess we're just lucky you put together your team when you did. Yeah, Caleb said quietly. Lucky. Will and Tarani sat in 2 uncomfortable chairs while Celia paced in front of them. You know what to do, right? Will telepathically asked her friend. Yeah, Will, Tarani thought back. We've done tougher stuff than this. You both know why you're here, don't you? Mr. Celia said to him. Yes, Mr. Celia, the girls answered. Cheating is a serious offense, one that we at Sheffield do not take lightly, Mr. Celia said. Tarani didn't want to be there. As she looked out the window, she realized he wanted to be anywhere but in that classroom. She told Nigel about the Guardians 3 days ago, and hadn't heard anything since. She wanted for things to go back to normal, but there was no normal anymore. Every month it was the same thing. Someone is attacking Meridian, or a giant lizard was trying to take over the Earth. Okay, so as far as she knew, no one was attacking Meridian now, but then they find even their teachers are evil. At that moment of weakness, she didn't want to be a guardian anymore. She didn't want to fight anymore. She just wanted to go to the movies with her boyfriend. But now, she couldn't. She shook her head and cursed herself mentally. What was she doing? Being a guardian was something that needed to be done. Protecting the universe was more important than her personal problems. She needed to just focus at the task at hand. Still, I believe some old-fashioned punishment is in order, Mr. Celia said, finishing his lectures on the evils of cheating. Take out a pen and paper. You are going to write lines. Lines? Really? Yes, Mr. Celia said, glaring at the girls. Do you have a problem with that? No, sir, Trey said. She shrugged and unzipped her bag. This was going to be easier than she thought. As she got out of the binder, she accidentally spilled the contents of her knapsack on the floor. Among the wreckage was the heart of Kandakar. She muttered a sorry and shoveled it back into her bag. Celia's eyes widened when he saw the heart. So Tarani had it, just as his boss predicted. He smiled. Looked like everything was going just as planned. Fatak took in a deep breath. It hadn't been easy, but most of the creatures were defeated. He looked around and discovered that not all of them had gone down. In front of him was a city creature, a large one, and in front of it were two children, no more than 10, standing with their backs against the wall. He leapt between the creature and the children and spun his mace. The creature did not back down. Cedric knew he was too exhausted to win a long battle. He had to end this quickly. He waited until the creature attacked him and, using the creature's momentum, threw it over his shoulder and into the wall behind him. Cedric looked at where he had thrown it, and his heart sank. The children hadn't moved. They were still standing by the wall. He had no time to reach them, so he covered his eyes from the dust. He ran toward the rubble. He knew there was no help that the children had been able to survive the wall falling on them. Yet, he still desperately threw rocks at the pile. When he reached the bottom, he saw an incredible sight. There in front of him was a beaten and battered Raithor, arms outstretched. He had used his body to seal the children. Raithor fell to one knee. Are you all right? Raithor asked the children. They just nodded. Good. Now off to your parents. The children compiled and ran to the arms of their parents. Raithor staggered to his feet. He winced and grabbed the side as he did so. Raithor, are you all right? Couple of minutes gone for sure, Raithor said, but that damn doctor's still in the castle. Raithor, Vatek said, I know there has been some bad blood between us, but that was one of the bravest things I've ever seen. You've earned my respect. Save it, Raithor said, heading toward the castle. I did do that for you, and I certainly didn't do it for your respect. Your respect doesn't mean a thing to me. I did what I did because it was my job to protect Meridian, her queen, and its people. And that's what I'm here to do. The only reason I'm going along with this whole team business is because it helps me to do that. I'm here to work, not make friends. And with that, he disappeared behind a building, leaving Cedric to stand alone in the village square in the front of a broken wall. Tarani Cook walked through the park, her hands in her pocket and the latest Boyzilla song playing through her headphones. Her spending most of the day outside was all part of Will's plan. Normally, Tarani wouldn't have minded. After all, this was the warmest day in months, and she liked the park near the end of winter. But she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't where she should be. Spending the day walking through the park just felt like a waste of time. Not only that, but Will wanted her to do it tomorrow, and possibly the next day too. Some way to spend a weekend. She should be doing something protective. Maybe it was time she did. Raphael Cilia walked through the park, trying to look casual. He had followed the subjects tougher than Tarani before. This should be an easy mission. A walk in the park, so to say. But there was one thing he had learned from the last couple of weeks. There were no easy missions. Not when it came to these girls. Still, it's not like she knew he was following her. And he was certain no one was following him. Not unless they were visible. But that was impossible. Helen visibly walked through the park. Her head was swimming. Her job was to follow Cilia, who was following Tarani. That meant she had to keep an eye on Tarani, who was at the south end of the park, and Cilia, who was at the north end of the park. Not only that, but because he was invisible, she had to dodge couples and dog walkers who didn't know she was there. Hey, Lan, can you hear me? It was Tarani, speaking to her telepathically.
Yeah, I hear you.
Helen thought back.
What is it?
I'll need you to not follow me for an hour tomorrow. Tarani thought.
Are you sure?
Helen thought, narrowly avoiding an old lady.
Will wanted me to keep my eyes on you all weekend.
I don't care, Tarani thought back. I'll need you off my back for an hour. Just for an hour.
Should I ask her why?
Helen thought. No, you shouldn't. Tarani thought to Helen.
Oops, sorry.
Tarani forgot that Helen could hear all of her thoughts.
All right, if it's that important.
Thanks, Helen. Helen was pretty sure she knew what Tarani wanted to do. She was going to confront Nigel. Helen thought about her own boyfriend, Eric Linden. She had to admit, she was thinking of telling him about the Guardians as well. But that was before everything went wrong between Tarani and Nigel. Now, she wasn't so sure she wanted to risk it. She snapped out of her thoughts and realized she had no idea where Cilia or Tarani were. She sidestepped an elderly couple and went back on the hunt. Well, Helen, considering how insane and goofy Eric is, I'm going to put money on he's probably going to be going like this. My girlfriend's a fairy! Eee! Caleb was walking down a hallway when a fold appeared in front of him. He instinctively went for his sword, but put it away when he saw who was coming through. Cornelia, what are you doing here?
I'm here to see you, handsome.
Cornelia said as the fold closed behind her. She walked up to Caleb and gave him a hug and kiss. Really? Caleb asked.
Yes.
Cornelia said, crossing her arms.
Is that so strange?
Well, to be honest, yes. Are you sure Haddonfield isn't under attack? Caleb asked.
Yes, I'm sure.
Cornelia said.
I'm here to see you. I miss you. I hardly ever get to see you outside of a ball.
Caleb looked at her as they started to walk down the hallway. Although he didn't know about Tarani and Nigel, he could tell she was troubled. Cornelia, are you sure you're okay with me staying on Meridian? I know last time. Cornelia took a deep breath.
No, Caleb, I'm not all right with it. I hate not being able to see you, and I hate not knowing whether or not you're safe. But I know it's something you have to do. And it's something you need to do. So even though it sucks, even though it hurts, I can deal with it. Because I love you. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
Caleb wanted nothing more than to hold her, kiss her at that moment. But a voice from behind stopped him.
Cornelia! Caleb! Did you tell her? Did you tell her?
It was Elion, right towards them.
Hey, Elion, Cornelia said. Tell me what? I have a new boyfriend. Elion said. That's great, Ellie, Cornelia said, giving her friend a hug. Anyone I know? His name's D, Elion said. He's a doctor. He's really cute, and we found him in the Infinite City.
The last remark caused Cornelia to raise an eyebrow.
Come on, I'll tell you all about it,
Elion said with a laugh. The two girls left, leaving Caleb alone once again. He smiled, and remembering what it was like when he first met Cornelia, he was glad Elion was feeling the same thing. If anyone deserved it, it was Elion. He smiled again. After all, this is what he fought for. The next day, Tarani walked towards the underpass. She tried not to look nervous. She tried not to look scared. Instead, she tried to look determined and strong. She knew she wasn't pulling it off. Surely, Nigel had to see the fear in her face. She became even more scared when she saw Nigel. He seemed to be hiding his emotions well. Tarani looked in vain for any signs of indecision in his face. It's been almost a week since we talked, Tarani said. Have you figured out anything? Yeah, I have. Nigel said. Tarani knew exactly what was coming next. Nigel didn't need to say anything else, but he did anyways. Here's what it comes down to. I am so proud of you and what you've done. I'm amazed at how strong you are. But that's just it. I'm not. I spent the entire week worrying about you and what you were doing. Couldn't take it. If I'm your boyfriend, it's going to drive me insane. I just can't take it. He reached over and held her hand. I still care for you. But I can't be the person you need me to be. I hope you do find that person, because you deserve him. But it's not me. I'm just not strong enough. I'm sorry. Neither of them said anything for a while. They both stood there in silence. Nigel is an idiot.
Is that how you feel? I mean, are you sure?
Trine said, holding back tears. Yeah. Nigel said. Lan, I guess we're done. She stood up. She promised herself she wouldn't cry in front of him, and somehow managed to keep a calm face. She gave him a hug and a soft kiss on the cheek. Then she turned around and walked away from him, and as soon as he was out of sight, burst into tears. Chapter 15. Planning in Motion. Tarani walked home from school, once more with heavy thoughts. Her mind was buzzing. There was so much to think about, and so little time to figure it all out. She took a deep breath and started focused on what she had to do now. She took a quick look over her shoulder. She couldn't see him, but she knew he was there. Quickly, she stepped into a dark and empty alley. She waited there patiently for 30 seconds. Then, Raphael Celia appeared. He took out a knife and walked toward Tarani. I think we both know what I want, Tarani, he said. Just give me the jewel and you won't get hurt. Tarani didn't say anything. She just smiled. Celia realized something was wrong. He spun around and saw Will and Cornelia enter the alley behind him. He looked at Tarani just in time to see Irma and Halen step out of the shadows behind her. Realizing he was surrounded, he gave a smile, but it did not have the same confidence Tarani had. I'm impressed, girls, he said. I don't know how you found out about me, but it won't do you any good. I'll still get what I want. You are unarmed, and I'm a professional. Everybody, please join me. You are an idiot! Ha 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 ha! I don't want to hurt you, but I will. I wouldn't worry about that, Tarani said. See that parking lot? Irma said, pointing behind Celia. My dad's a cop. Every day at exactly 4 o'clock, my dad parks his car there. It's part of his patrol route. It is now 3:59. So, when my dad shows up in a minute, he's going to see one of two things. Either he'll see a strange man attacking and robbing his daughter and her friends, or he'll see 5 girls who happen to run in their teacher onto the street. What's it gonna be? Exactly 1 minute later, Tom Lair pulled his police car into the parking lot. Hi, Dad! He turned and looked out his window to see Irma and her friends waving hello to him. Hi, sweetie! He said as Irma walked toward him. Who's that you're with? Oh, him? He's our computer teacher. We just ran into him on the street. That's nice. Listen, I'll be a little late coming home today, but I left a casserole in the fridge for you and Mom. Okay, Dad, Irma said, turning back to her friends. Be safe. You too, Tom said with a smile. Those girls must really like their teacher, he thought to himself. They wouldn't even let him leave. He wished he had liked his teachers that much. Now what? Celia said as Irma rejoined the group. We're not done with you, Tarani said. Helen captured that whole thing on her cell phone. So unless you want Irma's dad seeing you pull a knife on me, you're going to do 2 things. Celia didn't say anything as he just glared at Tarani. First, Tarani continued, you leave Sheffield and don't come back. Deal, Celia said. His cover was blown anyways. Next, you tell us who you really are and what do you want with the hot jewel. Celia looked for escape, but found none. I'm a PI, he said. I was hired to steal the jewel from you. Why? Helen asked. Don't play dumb, Celia said. We all know how much that jewel is worth. You could sell it on the black market and never work a day of your life. Tarani laughed. What? You think this thing is valuable? She said, taking the heart out of her bag. Of course, Celia said. Tarani laughed again. Dizzy held the heart at arm's length and dropped it. When it hit the ground, it shattered into a million pieces. What? Celia said. But he said it was worth millions. He was mistaken, Tarani said. It's just made out of glass. Who told you it was valuable? Will said. Who are you working for? I'm not sure, Celia said. I don't know his name. I only know he's a jewel collector, and he pays well. The girls looked down skeptically. Hey, I have no reason to cover for him. He lied to me. I hope you do catch him, but that's all I know. All right, Tarani said. Here's how this is going to work. We're not going to delete this video, but no one else is going to see it. Unless we see you ever again, leave Heatherfield and never come back. Because if we see you again, it's going to be behind bars. How do I know you won't tell the cops anyway? Celia asked. Tarani smiled. You don't. With that, Celia quickly walked down the street and away from the girls. You just let him go? Celia asked as Celia walked out of view. I guess I've just seen enough pain this week, Tarani said. I didn't want to give out anymore. Let's just go home. The girls went their separate ways. Helen walked beside Irma. That circle's a good plan by Will, Helen said. Yeah, Irma said without enthusiasm. I like the look on Celia's face when Tarani shattered that fake heart. I forgot about that one we made for the dragon play. Remember that whole Taurus Finlay business? Sure. Who do you think the mysterious jewel thief is? I don't know. Helen looked over at her friend. The normally cheerful Irma walked with her head down. Are you all right, Irma? I'm pathetic, Helen, Irma said. Look at me. The closest thing I've had to a boyfriend is Martin. Now it turns out the guy I like is evil. You weren't serious about Celia, were you? He was our teacher, Helen asked. No, but that's just it.
I joke and laugh about guys like Celia, but there's not really anybody out there for me. I've never even come close to having a serious relationship. Guess I shouldn't complain, not after what Tarani went through. But at least she had a boyfriend. You have Eric, Will and Cornelia have Matt and Caleb. What would I have? No one. Somebody will come along, Helen said. You just have to be patient. I guess you're right, Helen. Irma smiled, but it wasn't a strong one. The two friends continued to walk down the snowy streets in silence. A couple of blocks away from Irma and Helen, Raphael Celia walked into a dark building. As he had done many times before, he entered an elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. A minute later, he exited the elevator and entered a cold, dark room. He faced a familiar desk with a familiar man sitting behind it. "Well," the man said. Celia smiled. "Exactly as you planned," he said. "They set a trap and fell right into ours." "Then they think that you are finished?" the man asked. "Yes. They think they've outsmarted me. They even told me to leave Heatherfield and never come back." "Excellent. Though perhaps you should follow their advice," the man said. He then slid an envelope across the desk. "You've done good work. Here's your last check. Thank you and goodbye." Celia took the envelope, and opened it and made sure all the zeros were there. He muttered a thank you, and then headed for the door. He took one last look toward the room, and the man behind the desk. He entered the elevator and pressed the down button. The man who stood up once Celia had left. He had to admit, Celia played his part perfectly. The girls were relaxed, which made them more vulnerable than ever. They thought they had won, and that the game was over, but he thought the game was just started, and the gears continued to turn. Chapter 16, Cold Front. MEridian. As Elion fell asleep, she felt happier than when she had a long time. Everything was finally as it should be. MEridian was well on its way to rebuilding itself. Yeah, those city creatures were annoying, but Campbell was dealing with them well, and at least they made things interesting. But most importantly, she was in love. Even though she had only knew Dee for a week, she had never felt this way before. He was perfect in every way. As she closed her eyes, she smiled, feeling completely content. Okay, people, I haven't read this fic before, but why is it that my "don't fall for it, Elion, we're in trouble" sensors are going off? She awoke to a darkness. Complete and utter, absolute darkness. Not only did it fill her room, but it also filled the depths of her mind. It was as if all the joy in the world was lost forever, and every happy thought she had been erased. She staggered out of bed, desperately fighting the tides of despair. She regained her composure and headed toward the window. She saw every little village. The blackness was too great. She flew out her window and looked up, and saw a sight normally reserved for her nightmares. It was a storm. But not just any storm. It consisted of black, swirling clouds with a pinkish glowing center. Although she had not seen it many times herself, she recognized it. It was the storm that constantly appeared above the castle when Phobos ruled. Except this one was bigger, stronger, and more dangerous. Elion felt a tingle down her spine. Phobos? Could it be? Elion! Elion flew to the ground at the sound of her name. She quickly located Caleb, Wally, and Aldarn.
Caleb, what is it?
Caleb shook his head. "Phobos is still in his cell," he said. "We even knocked him out just to be sure. No, this is something new. Look out!" Elion hit the ground as a city creature soared over her head. Wally spun and fired an arrow into the creature's back.
"They're here too?"
Elion said, picking herself off the dirt. "Yes," Wally said. "We believe that they are connected somehow to the storm."
"But how?"
Elion asked as he blasted the creature.
"They don't have the power to do this!"
"Looks like Wally was right," Aldarn said. "Someone's behind these attacks, and it looks like they were just warming up."
"Caleb, we need the Guardians,"
Elion said. Caleb paused for a moment. "You're right," he said. "Fall to Earth, Elion. Go get them. We'll handle things here." Elion nodded and stepped through a portal to Earth.
"Cornelia, one of your friends is at the door." "Okay, Mom, I'm coming."
Cornelia put down her pencil, happy for the break from her homework. She rushed to the door.
"Elion, what are you doing here?"
she asked.
"We need the Guardians badly."
Elian replied. Have you got Will? Cornelia asked. Elian shook her head. She wasn't home. Can you call her? I have to get back to MEridian. Of course. Cornelia says he took out her phone. Don't worry. We'll be there.
Well, Wally asked as Elian stepped through the fold.
I couldn't find Will, but Cornelia says they'll be there.
Elian replied. They better hurry. Aldarn said. The storm was worsening, and these creatures just keep coming and coming!
Elian, is there anything you can do about the storm? Caleb asked. Elian looked at the soaring clouds.
I don't think so. Perhaps if I caught it right away, but it's too powerful now. With the Guardians' help, sure, but without them, it would take all my power and then some.
Too dangerous.
Well then, we better hope the Guardians arrive soon.
Cornelia once again tapped Will's number into his cell phone and put it to her ear. Again, nothing. She frowned.
Tarani, have you found her?
She telepathically asked her friend. Nope, Tarani said. Halen and Irma haven't seen her either.
What about Matt?
Nothing, and he's worried.
It's MEridian we should be worried about. If we can't find Will, they're on their own.
Elian could feel the familiar sense of panic gripping her heart. It had been over an hour since she went to Heatherfield, and there was still no sign of the Guardians. Where could they be? The storm was already twice its original size, and the honor guard was being worn out trying to fight these creatures. She looked around. Something had to be done. MEridian was in danger. If there were no Guardians, it was up to them. She looked up at the looming storm. It was up to her. She flew away from the bow and headed up toward the medical tents. She quickly found D. He was sitting in a corner, holding his head, an expression of pain on his face.
D, are you all right?
Elian said as he landed next to him. Yes, Elian. D said, it's just this storm. All this pain. Shouldn't you be at the battle?
No,
Elian said.
I had to do something more.
She leaned in and kissed him softly on the lips.
Whatever happens,
she said.
Thank you.
Then she turned and flew directly into the eye of the storm. Will walked down the street, trying to shield her face from the wind. She thought about the events of yesterday. Who was this jewel thief? How did he know about the heart? And if he knew that much about it, how could they so easily fool him into thinking Tarani had it? Something still didn't make sense. Her thoughts were interrupted by a ringing noise. She recognized it and reached it as a ringtone for Cornelia. She could answer it, though. Two strong arms wrapped a damp cloth around her mouth. She flailed madly as she was dragged away from the street. Will could feel herself slowly losing consciousness from whatever it was on the cloth. She panicked and reached for the heart in her bag. Her eyes widened as she saw an old man dangle the heart in front of her, just out of reach. As she saw the man smile, her strength faded. Her phone rang as she was pulled into darkness. Chapter 17. Cause and Effect. Elian flew ever higher toward the storm. The windows and towers of the castle blurred together as did the thoughts in her mind. She realized that this had never happened before. Yes, she had been in danger, but it had never been up to her to stop it. She had always relied on the Guardians or Caleb to make everything right. But the Guardians weren't there, and Caleb was powerless in the face of this new threat. Many emotions ran through her mind. There was, of course, fear, panic, and anxiety. Those were to be expected. Less than an hour ago, she had scanned the storm and didn't think she had the power to stop it. It was even stronger now, and even more dangerous. What made her think she could stop it now? But there was one more emotion, one that showed up more than the others. Determination. She would not let her people down. She would not let them be hurt. She would give MEridian a queen they would be proud of. What made her think she could stop the storm now, even though she hadn't before? Because now, she had no other choice. Even if it costed her life, she would save her city. Elian entered the heart of the storm. Energy crackled all around her. For some reason, she felt calmer now than she had before. She brought her arms up to her body and summoned up all her power. As the power filled her, she said a soft prayer.
Mother, help me save this world.
Then she opened her arms and realized the full extent of her birthright. Energy radiated from her body. She shone like a star surrounded by dark clouds. Her energy pushed against them, and the clouds pushed back as if they were alive. She could feel the strain of battle throughout her body, but she refused to give in. She pushed outwards, and once again her light slammed against the wall of clouds. This time, however, her energy forced its way through the clouds, slowly at first, but then faster and faster. It was working. She could win. But she was already so weak. There was still so much to do. Her mind threatened to buckle, but she kept fighting. She thought of the Browns and all that they had done for her. She thought of Caleb and the Guardians and how they never gave up. Most importantly, she thought about Dee and how happy he made her. She didn't want to give that up. She pushed one last time against the darkness. Although it seemed to her like an eternity, the clouds slowly parted and left, until all that remained in the sky was Elion, framed against the clear morning sun. She looked down at her city and smiled. Then she went limp, her unconscious body falling from the sky. Will slowly opened her eyes, and didn't like what she saw. She was in a room she had never seen before. Surrounding her were humming machines, flashing lights, and hundreds of turning gears. One of the machines on the left hand held the heart of Candacar in a glass tube. The heart pulsed and throbbed violently. However, none of this was what concerned her the most. What did make her worry was the old man standing in front of her. Will could see the suffering and desperation running off of him. She could also feel the strength and determination. The man said. Awake already? Will did a quick mental check of herself. She didn't seem to be harmed physically, although she couldn't move anything but her head. Her arms and legs were strapped to the wall so that she was eye level with the man.
Who are you? Will asked. What do you want? How do you know about the heart?
Powerless, defenseless, and immobile. Yet you still ask questions, the man said. Once again, I am impressed. Will Vandam. Will said nothing. Very well. I will answer the first of the questions out of common courtesy, and the last two because you do need to know why I do this. Firstly, my name is Dr. Theodore Ridden, and this is my story. Will picked up a remote and pressed a button on it. A large TV screen lowered from the ceiling behind him. He pressed another button, and the fuzzy black and white image of a security appeared on the screen. It showed a mother and her young daughter walking through the park. This image is from 5 years ago, Riddle said, in a town called Fadden Hills, just north of Heatherfield. Will knew Fadden Hills well. It was where she had grown up. But she decided not to tell Riddle this. The woman is my wife, Catherine, and the girl is my daughter, Megan. She was 4 at the time. Riddle pressed another button, and the image on the screen came to life. Riddle and Will watched in silence as the happy mother and daughter walked through the trees. Suddenly, just in front of them, a swirling circle of energy appeared on the path. Will instantly recognized it as a portal, though he hadn't seen one like it since the veil had been lifted. The mother was shocked by the portal's sudden appearance, lost her grip on her daughter's hand. The child, not knowing better, walked towards the portal, probably interested in its bright blue color. As she neared it, she tripped over an exposed tree root and tumbled through the portal. The mother instantly ran through the portal herself to retrieve her daughter. However, only seconds after she passed through it, the portal closed behind her, leaving nothing more on the screen than an empty park. They would never see it again, Riddle said quietly. The police saw the tape and thought they were attacked. They thought the portal was a clever trick, used by the attackers so they couldn't be identified. They saw it as a means of hiding. I saw it as something else. I saw the thing not only tore my life apart, but it was also the thing I would use to rebuild that life. I'm sorry your loss, Will said, but those portals are random. You have no idea where they ended up. Don't you think I know that? Will shouted at her. Before that accident, I was brilliant, wealthy, happy businessman. A lot changed that day, but not everything. I'm still brilliant, and I'm still wealthy. I dedicated my time and money finding out everything I could about magic. Within a couple of years, I found out about MEridian and Phobos, and more importantly, the Guardians. Recently, I discovered a way to create portals, or now, as you call them, folds, in between Earth and MEridian. Although it wasn't easy, I also figured out a way to control where they could go. That means, using energy readings from the one that took my family, I would be able to reproduce the exact portal. I could figure out where it took my family. What does that have to do with me? Will asked. Riddle frowned at her. Because making portals requires a great deal of energy, he said. I have nowhere near enough power to make one that I can use to control the degree I need to. But the heart does. It will require all of its power, but it can do it. Wait a minute, Will said.
You're going to drain the heart? What about all the people who rely on it? Without the heart, there are no guardians. What happens when the next time someone like Phobos attacks the Earth? And furthermore, why didn't you just ask?
Riddle shrugged. I have no idea, he said, and frankly, I don't really care. I have no attachment to this world. All I want is my family.
I'm sorry, Will said, but I can't let you do this.
Of course not, Riddle said. That's why you're strapped to the wall, and I believed you taught her enough for one day.
Riddle walked over and pressed a button on the wall beside Will. Will felt something prick the back of her neck, and for the second time today, felt strength leave her body. Riddle frowned at the glowing heart and left the room, leaving Will and the machines, and the gears continued to turn. Caleb had never run so fast in his life. He had to watch helplessly as his queen had amazingly stopped the storm that was threatening Meridian, and then continued to watch as he fell to the ground. Was she? She had done so much and fallen so far. Could she be? He didn't even want to think about it. He slid beside her. Dee was already there, holding her hand. Wally, Julian, and Fatek also surrounded her, a look of concern on their face. Dee, is she?
She's alive, Dee said, and unconscious. That's all I can say right now.
Not good enough, Caleb said.
You're a doctor! How is she?
Caleb was getting visibly upset, and Dee calmly looked him in the eyes. Caleb, I've only known Elion for a little over a week, and she already means more to me than anyone ever has. I can't even imagine what you're going through, but right now, I'm on a battlefield with no equipment, dealing with something no one has ever dealt with before. I need to analyze her condition, stabilize her, and then carefully move her into the medical room on the castle. I could do that a lot better without you yelling at me. You're a soldier. I'm a doctor. You've done your job. Now let me do mine. Caleb took a step back. He realized Dee was right. Even though he hated it, there was nothing he could do for Elion right now. He looked around. The entire honor guard was now there and waiting for orders from him. The creatures. What happened to them? They all disappeared once the storm left, Julian said. Drake, Tyner, Fatek, do a complete sweep of the city. Caleb said, make sure they're all gone, and help anyone who needs it. Father, Rathor, stay with Elion. Make sure she's safe, and help Dee in any way you can. Wally, you're with me. Where are we going? Earth. The atmosphere in the Silver Dragon's basement was as dark as it had ever been. Irma, Tarani, Cornelia, Halen, Yanlin, Caleb, and Wally sat in the dark room, not saying anything. They were all looking at the one empty chair in the corner of the room, the one normally filled by Will. When did you last see her?
When we left school yesterday. Just 4 hours ago.
Was it only 4 hours ago? Wally asked. Then isn't it possible she's not really in danger? Maybe she just went somewhere and didn't tell you. I'm sorry, but who are you exactly? Irma asked Wally. My name is Wally, from the village of Avalon, Wally answered. I have assisted Caleb and the honor guard in dealing with the recent attacks. What attacks? Triny asked. Caleb filled the girls in on the events happening in Meridian. Everything from finding Dee, to the city creatures, to the storm, and eventually Elion being a critical condition. It was the first time any of the girls had heard any of this. Is Elion going to be okay? Cornelia asked. Caleb didn't say anything. We're doing everything we can, Wally said. I'm sorry for Meridian, Triny said, and I hope Elion recovers. But our main concern right now should be finding Will. Without her, we can't help anybody.
What are we going to tell her parents if she doesn't come home tonight?
Helen asked. A sleepover? Irma said. That's always worked in the past. Will's mom isn't going to be happy that Will didn't tell her about it, Cornelia said. Still, the best plan we have right now, Youngin said, is that I'll go call Will's mom. Girls, Caleb said as Youngin left. You know you'll always have my support, but right now, my first priority is Meridian safely. Of course, Caleb, Cornelia said. We understand. Go make sure Elion gets better. Cornelia gave him a hug. Let us know if you find out anything, Wally said. We'll do everything we can to help once we know Meridian is safe. Thanks, Lily. We will, Irma replied. Wiley gave her a smile, and Caleb used the tongue of tooth to open a fold back to the castle. Where could Will be? Irma asked, staring out into the small basement window. I don't know, Tarani said. This has never happened before. What if she's... No, Cornelia said. Don't even think about that. She's going to be fine. No one said anything for a while. They were all thinking the same thing Tarani was. What if she wasn't okay? They had no way of knowing. What if their luck had run out, and Will was seriously injured? What would they do then? What would they tell her mother? Where is she? Have you heard anything? Is she all right? Matt Olson burst through the doors leading to the basement. None of the girls seemed him so angry. We don't know, Matt, Irma said, putting a hand on his arm. We're doing everything we can.
But there's not much we can do, Helen said. We don't even know where to start looking.
Don't look everywhere, Matt said. We don't stop looking until we find her, and the person who did this!
Agreed, Cornelia said. We're not going to do anything by standing here. Let's get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll do a complete search of the city. Find out if anyone's seen her.
Not good enough! I'm going now.
Matt, stop! What are you going to do if the person who did this? How far are you willing to go?
Matt didn't say anything. He just stepped out of the basement and transformed into a Shagon form into a dark alley. Then took off into the night sky in search of Will. Dee stood beside the bed where Elion had laid. It had been 3 hours since Elion had fallen, and Dee hadn't left her side. Her condition didn't seem like it was getting any better. But it was so hard to tell. Dee frowned. She had to get better.
Hi, Dee!
Dee jumped. It was Elion. She was awake. A huge smile swept across Dee's face.
Hi, Elion!
How do you feel?
Exhausted,
Elion said weakly.
Did it work?
It worked. You saved everyone. I've never seen anything as amazing that you did.
I couldn't have done it without you, Elion said. It was thinking of you that gave me the strength.
Elion, Dee said, squeezing her hand, this past week has been the best of my life. I've never felt this way about anyone before. You're so brave, strong, and so beautiful. I love you, Elion.
Dee, you've made me happier than I ever thought possible. Everything you do, your smile, the way you make me laugh, I never felt this way before either. You're the only person I ever truly loved. You're the only person my heart truly belongs to.
Really, Elion? Dee said with a smile. You do that for me? You would give me your heart?
Yes,
Elion said.
Dee, I give you my heart.
Dee smiled. He leaned over and gave her a soft kiss on the forehead. Although, he said, standing up, there is one thing I should tell you. You know how everyone thinks the creatures that attacked us were prisoners of the Infinite City? Well, that's only half right. The city is a prison. But the creatures weren't the prisoners. I was. Okay, show of hands and hooves and paws and whatever in the room. Who saw this coming? Anybody? As he said this, a golden glow appeared around Elion. Slowly, it moved from Elion toward Dee, until eventually, Dee glowed with its stolen power. Elion could only lie there helplessly as she realized that she had been tricked. Was this something I bet even you would have liked to know before you gave me your heart, and everything that comes with it? It was the last thing Elion heard before the last power of her left her, as she slipped into unconsciousness. Frack! I was hoping that guy was absolutely going to be good, and I was going to be wrong, and my daughter savviness was going to fail me. Curse you!
Caleb, please come to the medical room,
Muriel said. The glow from the ring on Caleb's finger faded as he sprinted down the hallways. Muriel's voice filled with concern and fear. What had happened now? Caleb wondered as he ran. He entered Elion's room and saw both Elion's adopted parents standing next to their daughter. To his surprise, Elion was awake. Her eyes widened when she saw him. She's been trying to say something, but we don't know what it is, Alborn said. Caleb knelt beside his queen.
What is it, Elion?
Elion opened her mouth, but nothing came out.
She's on the edge of exhaustion, Muriel said. Other days she's awake, let alone talking.
As Elion continued to struggle, Caleb's ring glowed yet again. Caleb, his father said through the ring, the storm is back. Report says that someone is on the roof. We need to check it out. Caleb closed his eyes. He wasn't so sure he could do it. For a brief second, he had lost all hope. They had been through so much in the past few years. They had barely managed to survive the last storm. Now they had to do it without Elion or the Guardians. I'll be there. The storm's back? Alborn said. Caleb nodded. And whoever's on that roof is the one who's behind all this.
Who can it be?
Muriel wondered aloud. When she heard this, Elion tugged at Caleb's arm. She struggled even harder to speak. Elion, Caleb said, turning to his queen. Do you know who it is? Elion nodded weakly. She's fading. Elion took one more deep breath, and with the last of her strength, uttered one name.
Dee.
Nobody said anything for a while. They just sat in silence as Elion once more fell to sleep. I have to go, Caleb said grimly. Then he stood up and headed through the roof. 4 of the 5 girls once again sat in the basement of the Silver Dragon. They had spent the last day and a half searching every inch of the city for any sign of Will. So far, they had found nothing.
Has anyone talked to Will's mom? She keeps calling the restaurant, Helen said. She sounds terrified.
Apparently, she called my dad, too. He asked me if I knew anything about it.
What does he say?
The truth, Irma said with a shrug. We haven't seen her since school yesterday.
Well, that's nothing compared to Matt, Trine said. He's ready to destroy the entire city to find her.
Where is he, anyways? Still flying around the city. He wasn't even at school today.
Poor guy, Helen said. I just feel so helpless.
Suddenly, a flash of light lit up the dark basement. It was so sudden and bright that it knocked the girls right out their chairs. When they had recovered, they saw the head of the Oracle floating in front of them. Zordon!
Guardians, he said. I don't have much time, so listen carefully.
We're listening, Trine said. About time you showed up, Irma added. Cornelia took a closer look at the glowing head. The last time they had seen the Oracle, he had forcibly returned them to Earth after the Sambala affair. He didn't look very good then, and he had looked worse now. It looked as if he had aged about 15 years in the last week. He also looked nervous, something that Cornelia had never seen in Kandakar's leader.
It's about Will. I know where she is.
Cornelia snapped to attention when she had heard this.
Where is she?
Helen asked.
In a building called the Institute, in Heatherfield. Sorry, that's all I could say right now.
Wait! Irma shouted, but it was too late. The Oracle had already disappeared. Tarani pulled out her laptop and began to find information on the Institute.
What's going on in Kandakar?
Cornelia asked as Tarani searched. Who cares? Irma said. Now we know where Will is.
What if it's a trap? Helen asked. What if whoever captured Will wants us to go into this building?
Doesn't matter, Cornelia said. It's the only lead we've got. We've got to take it. The Institute, Tarani said. Downtown Heatherfield.
What?
Not much information on it, Tarani said. No listed owner, no businesses in the building, nothing.
But we know where it is, right? Cornelia said.
Yep.
Call Matt. Time to start planning.
MEridian. Caleb, Julian, Wally, Raythorn, and Drake climbed the stairs and entered the roof of the castle. Standing in front of them was Dee. 2 city creatures stood beside him, growling. How could you? Caleb said. Elion loved you.
Yes, she did,
Dee said with a soft timid smile.
I have to admit, I even impressed myself with that. I mean, I know I'm charming, but still.
Wally notched an arrow and was about to let it fly when Julian had him back. Why? Julian asked. Why go through all this trouble? Dee's smile disappeared. Because it's right, he said. I was born 400 years ago. I was the greatest wielder of magic that the world had ever seen. I was the Queen's right-hand man. And most importantly, there was order. Look around you. Phobos, Cedric, Nerissa,
Meridian's seen nothing but chaos in the last 20 years. You need my order. Order? I've read about that time period. Your queen was a tyrant, and the people of Meridian overthrew her in rebellion. You're no hero. You just want to rule for yourself. History is written by the victors, Julian. He said, you should know that. If we had defeated those peasants, they would have been labeled terrorists. Now, they're heroic rebels. When they did win, they banished me to the Infinite City and surrounded me with these creatures. Brrr. He stroked the back of one of the animals. Brrr. But these were no ordinary creatures. They had been changed by magic. That was all I needed. Slowly, over hundreds of years, I stole my power back from those beasts. That's why I now control them. If it means anything, I would have escaped within another 50 years anyway. Your people finding me just speeded the process, although the life energy of that one person did help. Then you've been behind these attacks from the beginning. Wally said, I thought that was kind of obvious. Dee said, yes, I was behind these attacks. I was hoping that they would kill a lot of you, and Elion would give me her heart in a fit of grief. I guess I had to do it the old-fashioned way. You have a lot to learn about Meridian if you think you'll succeed, Kayla said. Dee laughed. Please, I've faced armies. It will take a lot more than the 5 of you. Wait a second. Why are there only 5 of you? Just then, 2 bloody hands shot through the floor and grabbed Dee by the ankles. Fathek grabbed Dee down as Trinar gave Dee a sharp uppercut. Dee was about to block Trinar's next punch when Fathek threw him into a nearby wall. Wally jumped through the hole in the floor and fired an arrow at Dee. Dee recovered in time to block it with an energy shield. Well done, he said. It's been a while since I've had powers, and you've caught me off guard. Caleb and Julian ran up from behind Dee, swords drawn, but shot him backwards with an energy blast. As he did so, Drake and Rathor, who also jumped through the hole in the floor, tackled him from behind. They fought him on the ground for a while, as the rest of the guard joined in. Enough! Dee screamed. He's pushed through the honor guard with a wall of energy. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I have ruled nations, fought armies, talked with demons. I am a king. It would take much more than the likes of you to defeat me. It would take a queen. Yes, it would take a queen. What? Dee spun to turn around who had interrupted him. There, supported by her 2 adopted parents, was Elion Brown. Chapter 20. Human Resources. Elion Brown. Dee and Elion stood across from each other, with only the rubble from the broken roof standing behind them. On one side, Dee stood powerful, confident, and alone. His hands glowed with the power that was once Elion's. On the other side of the room, Elion looked the exact opposite. Alborn and Meridian supported her on both sides. Her breathing was ragged and short, sweat dripping from her face. The honor guard surrounded her on all sides. I must say, I am impressed by your resilience, Dee said with a smirk. I expected you to roll over and die. I guess you don't know me very well then, Elion said. Dee gave a short laugh. Why don't we take this outside? Dee said. He then floated away effortlessly through the hole in the ceiling and landed on what was on the roof. Elion quietly turned toward the staircase and slowly made her way to the roof, supported all the way. It took her nearly a full minute to reach the top. Do you know why I made you come up here? Dee asked. You enjoy the fresh air? Confident, defiant to the end. Good. I like that. Dee said, No, Elion. I brought you up here. For them. He pointed to the side of the castle. Hundreds of Meridian knights had gathered to witness the confrontation. I want them to see you fall, Dee continued. I want them to know who their true ruler is. Wally drew back his bow and was about to fire an arrow when Caleb held him back. It was Elion's play now. All they could do was watch. Do you think I'm an idiot? Elion asked. Yes. Dee answered quickly. Well, at least he's honest. Do you think I've learned nothing for the past few years? Elion continued. Phobos, Nerissa, they were all after the same thing. Power. My power. So I didn't just sit back, hoping it wouldn't happen again. I planned, so next time I would be ready. Dee's smile started to phase as he realized what Elion was getting at.
Over the past few weeks, I've started siphoning my power, creating a reserve of sorts. That way, the next time some idiot like you tried to steal my power, I had some energy that was kept safe.
T's hands started to glow furiously. I will find his power. He said, I will destroy it and you.
No, you won't, Elion said, because I put it in the strongest part of Meridian, the one part that can never be destroyed. It's people!
T looked down at the roof of the castle, toward the crowd below. A glow surrounded the people, and as Elion talked, the energy slowly rose up toward her.
You thought my heart was something I kept for myself? But it's not. It's something I give willingly to the people of Meridian every second of every day. That's what makes a society work. The Queen gives everything for her people, and their people give it right back!
The last of her power entered Elion's body. Dee laughed, but it lacked the confidence it once had. Nice trick. But you still only have about a quarter of the power I do. It's not nearly enough to defeat me alone.
Oh, don't you get it? Elion said with a smile. I'm never alone.
An arrow flew through the air, aimed at Dee. He deflected it at the last second, and looked up to see both Drake and Caleb charging at him. He pressed aside Caleb, but was unable to block one of Drake's daggers. Drake, too, was shoved away, but not before he had drawn blood. Next, Julian and Trinar attacked. Dee barely blocked both their attacks, but was not able to separate himself before Vathek attacked with a violent blow. Dee was sent flying backwards, but managed to blast Julian, Trinar, and Vathek away. He blocked a few more arrows from Wally, and was met with an energy blast from Elion. The battle continued this way for nearly an hour. Dee was under constant attack from either the Honor Guard or the newly repowered Elion. As soon as one person fell, another took its place. Eventually, though, Dee's raw power had become too much for even Meridian's finest. The guard's attacks grew weaker and weaker, while Dee showed no signs of slowing. Finally, the Honor Guard lay scattered around the rooftop, beaten. Elion flew in close for one final blast, but Dee messed it with his own. The two now stood only inches apart, Dee slowly overpowering Elion.
A valiant effort,
Dee said, but face it, Elion, I'm just too powerful.
Weren't you listening? Elion said. It's not about power. It's about people. People like Caleb, who taught the worst rule of fighting. Always watch your back.
Just then, Dee's blast stopped. He looked down and saw an arrow sticking out of his chest. Behind him, Wally stood, bow in hand.
Dude, you're a very powerful magical being.
You should have seen this coming!
Dee tried to speak, but no words came out. He clenched his chest and collapsed to the ground, blood pouring from his wound.
So, Phobos, what do you think of the moron? Well, despite the fact that he was a good villain, yes, he was a complete and utter idiot.
Dee tried to... Elion and the Honor Guard stood around him, exhausted but victorious.
Is he dead?
Tyra asked.
No.
Wally said, I aimed carefully. He's not dead, but he'll die unless he gets medical attention soon. Caleb looked at Elion. It's your call. Elion stood there, looking down at the man who had broken her heart, stolen her power, and threatened her friends and family. She took a deep breath. Bring him in. Save him. Mariel gave her daughter a hug. I'm so proud of you, Elion. You were amazing. Elion didn't say anything. They had accomplished a lot today. She was pretty sure she could be happy, but she didn't feel it. She just felt tired, as if she could sleep for weeks, but there still was so much to do. The four girls sat in the basement of the Silver Dragon. Joining them were Matt, Napoleon, and Mr. Huggles. If this were any other show, I would just be looking at that list of names and just walking home. So what are we waiting for? Matt said, arms crossed. We don't know where she is. Let's go get her! It's not that simple, Matt, Cornelia said. Without the heart, we don't have any powers. And whoever was able to figure out who Will was and kidnapped her was bound to have some defenses, Tarani added. If we rested now, we could be captured as well. Or worse.
You have the regions of Earth with you. We have more than enough power.
We better hope so, Cornelia said, because we don't have anything else. Suddenly, a bright blue fold appeared in the basement. Caleb stepped out of it, and in the midst of the girls, Caleb!
Cornelia rushed to the arms of her boyfriend.
How's Elion?
Better, Caleb said with a smile. Much better. Caleb spent the next 5 minutes bringing the girls up to speed on the events of Meridian. Then the girls updated him on Will's status. So, what are we going to do? Caleb asked after they were finished. Attack!
We don't have any other choice, Helen said. But with our powers, we could use extra help.
Caleb smiled. You'll have my strength as always, he said. What about your team? Trani asked.
Trani, they just fought a huge battle. We can't just expect...
It's okay, Cornelia. Will's a friend of all of us, Meridian. I can't guarantee anything. I'm not sure how fast we could get here. We still have a lot of cleanup to do.
We'll take whatever you could get.
I'll ask and be back in a minute, Caleb said. Meet us at the Institute, Matt said. We're attacking now.
We are? Helen asked.
I'm not standing here any longer while Will is in danger, he had said, walking toward the door. Napoleon followed him, and Mr. Huggles went up on Matt's shoulder.
Cornelia! Matt! Wait! Cornelia said.
No, not anymore. If you don't want to come, then don't. But I'm not going to.
I meant wait, because we're coming with you,
Cornelia interrupted.
Yeah, Helen said. There's no way we're giving up on Will.
She's our friend, and we're going to fight for her,
no matter what the cost.
Matt didn't smile. He just looked at him. All right, let's go to war.
Chapter 21.
Sacrifices.
Riddle looked at his captive, and his captive looked back. Despite their persistence, it was Will who was smiling, and Riddle who wore a frown. It had been there days since they had captured Will, and still had not managed to benefit. He glared at the heart of Kandakar, lying still and useless in its glass vial attached to the wall. This should have been a very simple matter. The machines were all on and working. So why wasn't he gaining any power? What did she know that he didn't? What in the world was happening on the monitor? Kevin Davis had been a security guard for 10 years. In that time, he had worked for just every type of person, on both sides of the law. Dr. Doom, Wayne Enterprises, StarTech, LexCorp, the whole lot. So it was nice to know that even after all that time, he was still seeing new things. For example, he had never worked with so many people before. His daily report said that there were 402 people at any given time, 400 of which were guards like him. Interestingly, there had been only 401 people up to 3 days ago. They had also never seen so many zeros on a paycheck. Nor had he seen his boss, or what he was guarding. Not that he really cared, mind you. All he cared was his family. He had hoped that this job would pay for his daughter's college education. Those hopes disappeared as a bright gleam of energy flew past his face, followed by part of the front door. Men flew through the nearly enlarged entrance, followed by a 10-foot cat and a 10-foot mouse. He looked around. There must have been 30 or so armed security guards surrounding him. They didn't know quite what to make of this strange group, but they were professionals and quickly got their guns ready. Girls, wait outside for a few moments. Irma, Tarani, Cornelia, and Helen looked inside the building and decided to obey Matt's command. For about a minute, all they could hear was the sound of gunfire, energy blasts, and groans. Then it went silent. Okay, you can come in now. The girls peered into the building and saw Matt, Mr. Huggles, and Napoleon. You know, with a name like Mr. Huggles, I feel like I'm still reading a pony fic. Standing in the midst of about 30 or so unconscious security guards.
Wow, Helen said. I almost feel sorry for this guy.
Just then, metal shutters fell across the 4 walls, and shutting in the room. Once the shutters were in place, multiple nozzles came out of the walls and started to emit a thick, pinkish gas.
I don't. Helen? I created an air shield around us, Helen replied. But without the heart, it won't last long.
Any ideas? She looked up. She's up there. Then his eyes turned green, and a large section of the roof disappeared. He grabbed Cornelia and Tarani and flew toward the hole. Mr. Huggles and Napoleon grabbed Helen and Irma and leapt through the hole as well. Many floors above them, Riddle watched his monitor with glowing concern. These girls were quite resourceful, he thought. Switching to the second floor feed. How did he know where he was? Or what were those creatures? It's over, Riddle, Will said from behind him. You can't get my power, and my friends are here to rescue me. Riddle quietly walked over to the room and retreated to kneel. You can knock me out as many times as you like, Will said as Riddle walked toward her, but you know I'm right.
Riddle inserted the needle into her arm. Sodium pentothal, he said. Lying is a complicated mental procedure. This drug temporarily, but effectively limits your mental capacity, meaning that lying becomes impossible. In other words, it is a fast-acting, short-term truth serum. What is your name?
Wilma Fandom,
Will said slowly. What are the names of your biological parents?
Thomas and Susan Fandom.
Why can't I not access the power of the jewel?
Because magic cannot be stolen. It must be willfully given by the rightful owner, or inherited.
Riddle took a step back. He did not know this. There was no way he could convince her to give him her power, not before her friends reached him. It was over. Once again, the fates had stopped him from gaining any happiness. But he was so close. So painfully close. No, he was too close. He had worked too hard to be stopped now. He turned to sound on the monitor. They took her, Raythor! They took the girl I love, and now they're going to pay! Riddle thought. So, the bird creature loves her. Perhaps, if only the serum hadn't worn off. Who is that winged creature downstairs, and what does he mean to you? He asked Will.
His name is Matthew Olson, and he's my boyfriend.
Riddle smiled. A change of plans was in order. Irma surveyed the chaos. She had been in battles like this before, of course, but rarely without powers. She hated feeling helpless, having to cower behind pillars and walls. She had no choice. Bullets and arrows whipped through the air. The Regents were fighting well. And given the time, he might be able to defeat the guards, but he also had to watch the girls. Despite their great power and effort, Irma knew it wasn't going to be enough. She turned and found herself facing one of the guards. The guard, excited to see someone who wasn't about to call his face, raised his gun and pulled the trigger. Irma closed her eyes and waited for impact. It came, but from the side and not the front. It didn't feel like a bullet. Instead, it felt like a person. She hit the ground and opened her eyes to see Wally leaning over her. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. You're Wally, right?
Yes. Irma, correct? I'm very pleased to meet you.
The pleasure's all mine. I'm sorry I didn't know you better. Were you part of the rebellion?
No. I came from a small town called Avalon. I was helping the Caleb with the situation on Meridian and decided to help here as well.
Well, for one, I'm glad you decided to come.
Yes, I'm glad too.
Ahem! If you two are done getting to know each other, we have a battle going on. Sorry, Caleb!
The addition of the honor guard quickly turned the tide. It took only a few minutes to clear out the rest of the guards. It wasn't good enough for Matt, however. He swooped down on one Riddle's men and shoved him against the wall. Where is he? He shouted at the guard. I don't know, the guard said, shaking his head, sweat pouring down his face. Do you have any idea of the power I wield? He said, his eyes starting to glow. You will tell me where she is. I swear, I don't know, the guard said. We've never been told anything. Fine. You'll be an example for the others. Matt's eyes glowed even brighter, and he prepared to unleash a blast. As he fired, he was hit hard to the side of the head. It knocked his blast just wide of the side of the man's head. He turned to see who had hit him, and found Raythor standing back to him. Raythor, what are you doing? Saving yourself from yourself, Raythor said back. You're about to kill that man. So? Matt said, eyes still glowing. They took her, Raythor. They took the girl I love, and now they're going to pay! It's not worth it. Excuse me. It's not worth it. It never is. So you want to have me spare him? Yes. If not for me, then for her. The glow faded from Matt's eyes when he heard this. I've killed people before, Matt, under Phobos. I thought I was doing the right thing, that it would protect the people I care about, but it didn't. There's not a day I don't regret all the lives I've taken. It changes you, forever. You're a good man, Matt, better than I'll ever be. If you kill that man now, then you'll be changed too, to something you're not. I've seen it happen to too many good people. I don't want to see it happen to you, and I'm guessing neither does she. Walk away. Matt dropped the guard. Now, Raythor said, whoever this guy is, he didn't think we had anyone who could fly. That means he most likely put himself, and probably will, as high as he could, which means we have to go up. How? Matt asked. He put a shutter on the ceiling too. I don't think I could blast through it. Suddenly, the elevator dinged, and another large group of guards exited. If people can come down, They could go up. Up the elevator shaft. Nice. But I can't carry you all up there. Just go, Rathor said. We'll handle these guys. Thanks, Rathor. He then took off, blasted through the elevator, and headed up the long, dark shaft. Once more, the room burst into chaos. Irma and the rest of the girls started for cover again. This time, it was a much more even fight. It was clear that the well-trained honor guard, combined with the mystic might of the regents, were too much for the mere security guards. But all it took was one lucky shot. Irma saw it first. One of the guards slipped behind Wally and was lighting him up in his sights. "Wally! Watch out!" Irma shouted. Wally faced the guard, but it was too late. Wally had no time to draw his bow, and no one else could get there in time. Wally closed his eyes and waited for the end. Wally hit the ground. He stumbled around, stretching his aching muscles. He was free. How? Riddle? No, he was nowhere to be found. The girls! Matt! He remembered now. They had been on the monitor. But how did they find her? It doesn't matter. They were here, and they needed her help. She took to heart, sitting in a glass vial attached to the wall. She walked over to the table where her stuff had been placed and picked up her coat. She wrapped her hand in it and smashed through the glass. It shattered, and the heart fell into the ground. It sparked and glowed as she picked up and held it in front of her. "Guardians Unite!" Irma panicked. There was nothing she could do. Wally was going to be killed in front of her, and there was nothing she could do. She had to do something. She closed her eyes and focused on the guard, concentrated, and released all of her power. She opened her eyes. The guard was halfway across the room, soaking wet. She had done it. She had saved him. She looked down. She was in guardian form, fully transformed. Just in time to save him. She breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Wally. He smiled at her, and he smiled back. "Wait a minute," Tarai said from behind her. Irma, "if we're guardians again, then that must mean..." A bolt of lightning struck down a guard. "Wow!" With the combined might of the guardians, the honor guard, and regents, the security guards were defeated in a matter of seconds. The girls barely had time to give Will a hug before the guardians in all their glory. The girls looked up to see a large screen that had lowered itself from the ceiling. It was Riddle.
"This is the guy who kidnapped you?"
Helen asked. "Yeah," Will said. "His name is Riddle, and he's more dangerous than he looks." "We're going to get you, Riddle," Tarai said, "even if we have to tear down this entire building." "No, you won't," Riddle said calmly. "Why not?" "Because," Riddle said, "there are only two ways to free the locks that had held you in place, Will. The first way was by entering a 12-digit key code, and then pressing a small, unmarked button in my office. Since no alarms are going off, and no one has entered my office, which means you are free using the second way. That way involves manually ripping out the cords supplying power to the electronic locks that kept you in place. Whoever did rip out those cords would also receive a 25,000-volt shock when they did it. That's more than they use in electric tears. So, you could hunt me down, or you could try to save the person who saved you. By the way, Will, isn't someone missing your group?" Will looked around and felt her heart sink. There was only one person who wasn't there. Only one person who was missing. "Matt!" Matthew Olson laid face down on the ground, once more in human form. Behind him, two torn cords dangled uselessly from the wall. In front of him, Will kneeled on the ground, trying to hold back tears.
"Matt! Is he?"
Helen asked softly. Jillian and Tarai kneeled beside Matt. "He's alive. I can feel a pulse." "But his breathing is weak," Tarai asked. "We have to get him to a hospital." "But Riddle..." "Riddle's right," Will said, brushing tears from her eyes. "I hate him for it, but he's right. Matt has to be our top priority. We have to get him to a hospital." "Where?" Irma said. "We can't just drop him off at Harefield General. How will we explain that?" "Irma's right," Cornelius said. "People will get suspicious." "MEridian," Jillian said. "We can keep him stable at the castle until you come up with something." "Are you sure?" Tarai said. "No offense, but MEridian doesn't have the medical technology Earth does."
"It's our only option," Helen said. "We can't keep him in Harefield. What will we tell his mom?"
"My mom!" Will said. "How can I forget about my mom? What will I tell her?" Tarai and Cornelia looked at each other. "Let's focus on our priorities," Tarai interrupted. "We need to get Matt to MEridian." "You're right." The honor guard lifted Matt up gently and carried him through a fold that Will created with the heart. The girls spent the next 10 minutes going through the building, but Riddle was nowhere to be found.
He must have gotten out here as soon as we left.
He's got to be around here somewhere, Will said.
Well, you've had a long day. We all have. Let's just go home. We'll get mail tomorrow.
You're right, Will said. But what are we going to tell Mom?
Actually, we come up with an idea for that.
Cornelia said as he flew into the night.
You're not going to like it.
What is it? Will's looked at each other nervously.
We think we can have Irma use her powers to convince your mom that...
No.
Will,
I'm not brainwashing my mom.
It's not a brainwash. It's more like a brain rinse.
Don't you dare joke about this, Irma.
Your mom's not the only one, you know.
She also called the cops.
You mean, yeah, my dad's on that list as well. And you're okay with that? If that's what it takes.
Well, we've been thinking about this. It's the only option that works. Will didn't say anything. Now, we're going to tell her that Matt went on tour and invited you to join him for his first concert. This will also explain why Matt's gone.
What about the rest of his band? They haven't gone on tour.
Will just say he's filling in for another band. Will gave her friends a skeptical look.
We know it's not perfect, Will, Helen said, but it's the best we've got.
The 5 girls landed on Vando's front yard. It'll only be a minute, Irma said, putting her hand on Will's shoulder.
All right, Will said.
Let's just get it over with. The girls got out of sight as Irma walked up the steps and rung the doorbell. It was Dean that was answered.
Hello, brother. Oh, hello, Irma. I'm afraid that there's still no word from Will,
he said. Actually, Will's why I'm here, Irma said. Can I come in?
The other girls came out from behind the bushes when they saw Irma enter the house.
What will I tell her? Will said. I don't want to lie to her.
Just try to avoid the subject until you can clear your head, Trey said.
We'll be right with you the entire time, Cornelia added.
Okay, you can come on down now, Irma said, walking down the stairs. Oh, and Will? Deed's in there, too.
Just what I need. Just relax, Helen says as they walked down the front steps. Will! It's so good to see you,
Susan said, giving her daughter a hug.
Hi, Mom.
Susan's eyes were bloodshot from crying, although she didn't remember why. Will had to hold back tears of her own.
How was the concert? Susan asked.
Oh, it was great.
Really?
Will said.
Are you so alright?
Susan asked Will.
Yeah, Mom. I'm just fine. Just tired, that's all,
Will replied.
Do you mind if I take the girls back to my room? We have a lot of catching up to do. Of course! Go right ahead. But please don't go out tonight. I've missed you too.
Will looked away as she reached her room.
That was awful!
Will said to the girls once they were alone.
You did fine, Will,
Tarani reassured her friend.
Are you going to check on Matt tonight? Irma asked.
I want to,
Will said, but I don't want to leave my mother either. She really misses me, even if she doesn't know why. I'll go to MEridian and check on Will, Cornelia said. It'll give me a chance to check up on Caleb and Elion. I'll let you know if he wakes up.
Thanks, Cornelia, Will said, opening a fold to MEridian.
I think I'll come with you, Corny,
Irma said, standing up.
Why?
Helen asked. Because I want to, Irma replied. Something wrong with that? Cornelia shrugged.
Whatever. Oh, and don't...
Cornelia said as he walked through the portal.
Well, I guess I better go see my mom, Will said.
Yeah, we better head home as well, Tarani said, standing to leave.
Oh, and by the way, Will said. Thanks for coming for me. Of course we were coming to get you, silly, Helen said with a smile. We was awfully stupid finding his itch.
Will smiled and gave her friends a hug. She walked up to the door and waved them goodbye. Then she turned around to see Dean standing behind her. Oh, excuse me, Will. I was just getting my coat.
Why? Are you going somewhere?
Well, you haven't seen your mother for a while, and I thought it was best if I left.
Dean, did you spend a lot of time here while I was away?
Yes I did. Sorry if that makes you uncomfortable.
No, not at all. In fact, thanks.
For what?
For being here when I wasn't.
Well, you were at a concert. It's not like you were kidnapped.
Yeah, thanks anyway. You should really stay for dinner.
Thanks, Will. I think I will.
Will headed back to the table with Dean.
And the first time in 3 days, she smiled.
Ever call me corny again, Irma!
Cornelia! Good to see you! Caleb said. Oh, Nice to see you too, Irma. Yeah, thanks.
How is he?
Cornelia asked. Not good. Caleb said, I have to admit, if you don't know much about electrical injuries, but he's not healing like he should. Or not so why.
I feel so bad for Will, said Cornelia. He's been through so much these past few days. If something happened to Matt. Cornelia!
Elian gave her friend a hug.
Oh, it's nice to see you too, Irma.
Yeah, thanks, Elian, Irma said with a sigh. If anyone needs me, I'll be over here.
How are you doing, Elian?
Cornelia asked.
I'm holding up, Elian said. You should be more worried about Matt. Is it bad?
Cornelia asked. Here's the doctor coming now. You can ask her yourself.
I better go,
Elian said quickly.
It was nice seeing you again.
Yeah, you too, Cornelia said, as he turned to Caleb once Elian was gone.
Why does he leave so quickly?
Dean was a doctor, Caleb said, as he's still not comfortable around them. She's putting on a brave face, but Dean really hurt her. The doctor joined their group before Cornelia could respond. Cornelia, this is Dr. Patillo. Patillo was an older woman with short gray hair. She walked between the two and shook Cornelia's hand.
Nice to meet you, Guardian, she said. I wish it was under better circumstances. How is it?
Cornelia asked.
Worse. I've never seen anything like it. It's not like he's even fighting it. I don't see improvement in the next 24 hours. I can't make any guarantees.
Away from this conversation, Irma was having one of her own. But instead of a doctor, she was talking to Wally. It's nice to see you're all right.
We're always all right,
Irma said with a smile.
Listen, it was really nice of what you did, coming to help Will.
We look out for our friends.
I didn't mean the team. I meant you. You only met her a couple of times. Irma said, but you didn't have to come. But you did anyways. I just thought it was really nice.
Thank you, Wally said with a smile.
Irma, we need to go!
Cornelia shouted from the room.
I'll be there in a sec, Corny. She turned back to Wally. I have to go. But I hope to see you again sometime.
Yes, Wally said. Me too. Irma waved goodbye, then headed back to the fold. Back to Heatherfield. Will tossed and turned in her bed. It was almost morning, and even though she was exhausted, she hadn't slept at all. Cornelia had told her about Matt. Would he? Could he? She couldn't even finish the thought. But there was nothing she could do now. She had to try to get some sleep. She was just nodding off when her phone rang.
Who is it, Ed?
Will answered her phone number. I don't know, Will. I don't recognize the number. Will picked up the phone and put it to her ear.
Hello?
Hello, Will Random. This is Riddle. We need to talk about your boyfriend. Chapter 23. Emergency Room.
Riddle!
Will shot out of bed.
How dare you call about Matt? We're coming for you, Riddle! We will find you!
You don't need to find me, Will. I'm still at the Institute. Top floor. Come and get me. Will didn't even think. She grabbed a heart, quickly transformed, and flew out her window. She got to the large, familiar building in record time. She blasted through the concrete upper walls and found Riddle waiting.
This is it, Riddle!
You have nothing to hide behind this time, Will said, her hands crackling with electricity. Will, do you think, after all that I've done, I would stand here, unarmed and unprotected without some kind of plan? Riddle said, touch me and your boyfriend dies. Explain, Will said. Matt's not doing well, is he? Riddle began. He's not recovering the way he should be. You don't need the answer. Your eyes tell me I'm right. It's the magic in him. Matt is a non-magical being who's been given magic. It's affecting the way he hears. What does this have to do with you? Will asked. I heard through the security system that you were taking him to Meridian. I highly doubt that they know enough about magic to cure him properly, but I do. Oh, really? Will said. Well, no one studied magic like I have. I spent the last 10 years researching magic. There's very little I don't know. I am the only person who can save him, and all I ask in return is the heart. How do I know you'll do it? How do I know you can save him? Riddle sighed. Despite recent evidence to the contrary, I am not an evil man.
I have no desire to see Matt die. All I want to see is my family. You don't have to give me the heart until I save him. I know you won't go back on your word." Will hesitated. "I'll have to think about it. I'll need to talk it over with the girls, and make sure he hasn't gone better." "Of course," Will answered, "but I warn you, he has only 5 days max. You'll need to make your decision quickly. If you want to talk again, call me, and I'll be at the Institute in 5 minutes. Otherwise, don't try to find me." Will quickly flew back to her house and called the girls. "Meridian, now!"
"Are you sure he can do it?"
Julian asked, once Will had filled him in on what had happened. The Guardians, Honor Guard, Queen Elion, Dr. Petilio all sat around Elion's throne room. "Probably, but it doesn't matter," Will said. "We don't have to give him the heart until Matt's safe. We just need to figure out where we should let him try."
Is he right about Matt's condition?
"It would make sense. There is no reason why I can't think he's not healing. He should have been only unconscious for 4 minutes, considering how vulnerable he is in his magical form. At this rate, however, 4 or 5 days are about what I give him as well."
What about Kandrakar? Thathic suggested. Surely they would be able to save him.
"Kandakar's not an option," Will said, shaking her head. "We haven't been able to get there since Sabala." "You still can't get to Kandakar?" Caleb asked. "No, trust me, I've tried. I don't know what's going on there, but we can't worry about it now."
"You're not actually considering giving him the heart, are you, Will?"
"We may not have any other choice, Raithor." "I hate to say it," Irma said, "but I agree with Raithor. Why don't we just go and beat the style out of him? Force him to help Matt." "You haven't seen him like I have," Will said. "He'd rather die than lose. Besides, we don't even know where he is." "We don't really have time to look," Cornelia added.
"But this is the heart of Kandakar we're talking about," Raithor said. "Without that, you're no longer Guardians."
"We know. We've done a lot of good things as Guardians," Will said. "Maybe it's time to go back to having normal lives, before someone else gets hurt." "No way!" Irma said. "I love being a Guardian, and I don't want to give it up because some jerk in an office." "What about when the next monster attacks? What do we do then?" Helen asked. "It means we won't be able to go to Meridian," Cornelia said, giving Caleb's hand a squeeze.
"We could always come here and see you."
"The Oracle gave the heart to Will," Tarai said. "Plus, it's her boyfriend, and that makes it her decision." The group sat in silence for a few minutes. Will's mind raced with thoughts. Could she really give up the Guardians? The ability to fly and see other worlds? Could she just give it up? She had done and seen so many things that no one else had ever had. But on the other hand, she could still be a Guardian if it cost her Matt. She could watch him die, knowing she would have saved him. She knew in her mind there was only one decision to make. She was about to speak when Elion began to talk. "Actually, I have one other option," Elion said. Will couldn't help but feel exhausted. He had received a call from Will just minutes before, and now standing on the top of the Institute, staring out the hole Will had created earlier this morning. He had worked so long and so hard for this moment. If he had said yes, and he was correct about Matt's problem, he was merely hours away from his goal. Suddenly, a blue fold opened up in front of him, and 5 figures appeared out of it. Wait, 3 more figures were stepping out of the fold. He recognized the 2 in the back. Caleb and Wally, he believed they were called. But who was the girl in front of them?
"So, Will, not only are you responding to my offer, but you brought friends." He looked at Elion. "I don't believe we've been introduced. I am Dr. Theodore Riddle."
Elion returned his look. "My name is Elion Brown, Queen of Meridian, and you won't be taking Will's power, because I'm going to give you mine."
Chapter 24. Last chapter. Braving the Unknown.
"No! Caleb, wait!" "Elion, you can't be serious. Let's think about this. Won't let you. You can't. Everyone shut up and listen!" The Guardians and the Honor Guard stood at various points around Elion's throne room. Nobody quite knew how to react to Elion's idea. "Elion, run this by us one more time," Cornelia said. "I'm going to give Riddle my power in exchange for saving Matt." "Elion, you can't." "Yes, I can." The Riddle stared at Elion for a few minutes. "You're going to give me your power?" he said. "Yes." "I know nothing about you. How do I know your power is sufficient?"
With a wave of her hand, Alien disintegrated what was left of the halls, holding up the roof of the building. The ceiling began to fall on the group, causing Riddle to duck for cover. Before the ceiling hit, Alien raised her open hand and used her power to suspend the roof in midair. Then she closed her hand, and the roof also disappeared. Very well. It seems your power would be more than enough, he said, picking up from the floor. Although I would ask you don't destroy any more of my building with your demonstrations.
Fair enough, Ilion said. Now, I can assume we can get started right away?
Just one more question, Riddle said, purely a matter of curiosity. Riddle's Matt's boyfriend, but she never questioned giving her power to save him. So why are you, who have no relation to him that I know about, be willing to do so much to save him?
Why are you doing this, Ilion? Because Phobos, Nerissa, and Dee all had one thing in common, Ilion began. They wanted my power, and they hurt this city and its people trying to get it. That's the only reason they attack. If I get rid of my power, Meridian is no longer a target for every tyrant and madman looking for power. It makes us safer. Let's just say I have my reasons and leave it at that.
Ilion told Riddle, fine, if that's what you want, take me to Meridian. Have you thought this through, my queen? Thatta gasped.
Yes, I have.
But your power is our best defense against threats, Kale said. Without it, Meridian becomes safer. Father, you knew about this?
I've talked this over with Jillian. He agrees that my power is what bringing these attacks to us.
Giving up her power would, in all likelihood, stop or limit the series of attacks that Meridian has suffered. There's never been an opportunity or a reason to get rid of it.
Until now, I don't like it, Kale said. I know, but it's what I need to do. Elion, I can never thank you enough for you to do this. It's the least I could do after all the Guardians have done for us. Will gave her a hug. Okay, let's go to Earth.
Alien sat in the hallway, waiting patiently. Brill had taken Matt to the Institute, and Will had gone with him, as well as Dr. Patillo. Tarani had suggested that everyone else get some much-needed downtime. And so, the Guardians and the Honor Guard were in the mess hall, except for Caleb, who was in the training room, and Elion, who was sitting in the hall thinking. She looked up when she heard the sounds of footsteps approaching. Muriel looked down the hall and sat beside her adopted daughter.
Penny for your thoughts, my dear?
Muriel asked.
It's Caleb. I'm worried about him. Matt's near death, and you're about to give up your power, but it's Caleb you worry about. You know what I mean, Elion said with a smile. I knew he wasn't going to like my plan, but I didn't think he would take it this badly. Why can't he just accept what was about to happen? Caleb's different from me or you, Elion. I had my whole childhood before Phobos took over, and you only found out about Meridian 2 years ago. But Caleb was born under Phobos' rule, and even though he didn't know about you until recently, he's been fighting for you his entire life. Now, he feels like he's failed you because of what you have to do. But it's not his fault. If anything, it's mine. It's no one's fault. Just the way life works. Now what about you? Are you prepared to do what you have to? Of course not, Elion said with a laugh. How can I be? You'll do fine, Muriel said. Thanks, Mom.
Muriel stood up to leave as Elion continued to think. She smiled and thought about how much Elion had changed in the last couple of years. Then she turned to walk down the hall. Will sat and stared at the door separating her from Matt. It felt weird being in the Institute again. Her thoughts were interrupted by the glow of a fold, and Cornelia stepped through and sat beside her.
How are you doing?
Cornelia asked.
I guess as well as can be expected,
Will said with a shrug. Cornelia didn't say anything, just sat in silence beside her friend.
Do you think this is it?
Will asked at last.
What do you mean?
As Guardians, Will said. It was fun when we were going to different worlds and being heroes, but... Will pointed to the door.
Is it worth it?
Cornelia stared at the door. They had been thinking the same thing ever since Tarani broke up with Nigel over the Guardians. But Cornelia never thought they would actually stop being Guardians. But that was before Matt. Now, things didn't look so clear. Her thoughts were interrupted by opening the door in front of her. Riddle walked out, brushing the sweat from his forehead. Will stood up quickly.
Well?
He's on his way to a full recovery, as to be expected, Will said. Will breathed a sigh of relief.
Can we talk to him?
Cornelia asked. Not yet, I'm afraid, Riddle said. He's still unconscious. Patilla will talk back to Manhattan, back to Meridian. He should be awake in a couple of hours. Can I at least see him? Of course. Riddle said. Go with him to Meridian. Tell your friends the good news. I await your return with Elion. The two girls helped Patilla take Matt back to Meridian. They were met with cheers. I don't know how he did it, Patilla said. There were things in that room I'll never understand. All I know is that Matt is healing very quickly. He'll have some scarring on his hands, but no lasting damage. I suppose it's time for me to uphold my end of the bargain. Not without me. Caleb entered the room for the first time since Elion announced her plan. He headed straight for his queen. I'm with you to the end, he said.
Thanks, Caleb, for everything.
She created a fold to Heatherfield. All right, let's get this over with. Riddle, Elion, and Caleb stood in a large, dark room. The room was filled with a variety of dials, buttons, and turning gears. Riddle was wearing a full lab coat and thick-tinted goggles. He was going around the room, double-checking each measurement and reading. He had done too much work to be done in by now by a miscalculation. Caleb also wore a lab coat and goggles similar to Riddle. Riddle had made it quite clear that Caleb was not needed in the room during the procedure, but Caleb had insisted he be there. He was looking back and forth quickly between Riddle and Elion, trying to keep an eye on both. Elion stood facing the wall. Her hands were placed in the two hand-shaped holes in the wall, which seemed to lead to a large empty space behind it. Sensors and wires surrounded her, all being used to measure the amount of energy she was about to release. She looked at the dark window on the far side of the room. Although she couldn't see them, she knew the Guardians, the rest of the Honor Guard, and Dr. Patillo were behind the window. She gave them a weak smile, a smile that faded away quickly once she turned away. All right, Elion. It's very important, but pay close attention to what I say during the procedure. You can't just release all your power at once. The results could be disastrous. What do you mean by that? Caleb asked.
Elion, it's fine. Caleb, it's fine, Elion said, trying to reassure her friend. Just tell me what to do, Riddle.
Whenever you're ready, Riddle began, fire a weak blast into the chamber. Only about 10% of what you could do. And only till I tell you to stop. Understand?
Yes.
She took a deep breath and then began. She poured power into the chamber. The walls of the room began to glow with energy. Lights that were dark before now shone brightly. Stop! Riddle said, and after a couple of seconds, amazing. Your power is amazing. He made some modifications to some of the machines, and then turned back to Elion. All right, Elion. Now, fire another blast. This time, half of your potential. When I say so, increase your power to 80%. Ready?
Ready.
Now! Elion saw another blast into the chamber. This time, the room glowed even brighter. The tinted goggles both Riddle and Caleb wore protected their eyes. Now, Elion, increase the discharge! Elion did as he was told. Sweat started to pour down her face from the effort. The room seemed ready to explode. The lights shone brighter, and the gears turned faster. Riddle pressed a button on the power, flowed to the corners of the room. Riddle pressed another series of buttons, and the power was shot into the center, where a faint blue glow was beginning to form. After a few seconds, the invisible portal became clearer and clearer. Now, Elion, everything you've got! Elion gave one last final push of power into the chamber. Her knees were starting to shake. The portal in the center of the room was now almost fully formed. Riddle ran over to the side of the room and opened a small door. He pulled out a large knapsack containing everything he would need in Meridian. He then turned to the window, with the guards closing by. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, girls. I apologize for any harm I might have caused.
Well, no problem, Riddle, but why didn't you just ask? I mean, why go through all this trouble? Heck, you were willing to go to Meridian. I agree. Why didn't you just have say, hey, Elion, why don't you open a portal for me? Or why not connect it to me? I mean, you apparently were able to do all the calculations. All you just needed was to do this. You didn't really need all her power.
I'm coming, my love. He whispered as he walked to the portal, letting Elion know to stop once he was gone, and into the unknown. Elion shut off her power the second Riddle disappeared, then fell to the ground unconscious. All of her power drained from her.
Why?
Caleb ran to her as the Guardians and the Honor Guard burst into the room. Is she all right?
She's exhausted, Mateo said, kneeling beside Elion. She uses an incredible amount of power. She just needs some rest, and she'll be fine. Will opened a fold to Meridian, and the group left the building. Once again, the Institute was dark and empty. The humming had stopped, the lights were out, and the gears no longer turned. She did all that for me? It had been hours since Matt had been saved, and Riddle had gone through the portal. And now it was almost night on Meridian. Will sat on Matt's hospital bed, had just woken up, and Will spent the last 20 minutes explaining what had happened. 2 beds down, Elion slept peacefully. She had awoken since the procedure and seemed physically fine. All the tests showed that she had no longer any of her former power. ... W.H.Y. She did it for everyone, Will said. You, Meridian, and even Riddle. Okay, Riddle, how are you so sure that your wife and daughter were in the same position? You even brought a knapsack. Why the big deal? Why not just ask Blackfarg or Taranga Tooth? I can't even believe you gave him what he wanted, Matt said. You should have just... He wasn't an evil man, Will said. Just a very, very stupid man. He was doing everything he could be to the people he loved. I know what that feels like. I don't blame him. Even if he was the one who made you feel that way. Will didn't say anything. Looking at Matt, she knew they had made the right choice. But there were still so many questions. Could they still be Guardians now they knew what they had to lose? Even though they kind of knew that before. What was going on in Kandahar? Will had only tried again an hour ago and still couldn't reach the fortress. Will knew that Kandahar had saved Matt without Elion giving up her powers. How could they close the doors and the Guardians in their darkest hour? Hey, thanks for saving me. Same to you, Will said with a smile. She gave him a kiss, and he laid back and went to sleep. The questions would wait for now. She was just happy to have Matt back. She stared in the window and watched the sunset. And waited for morning. Phew! That was exhausting, but worth it. So, final thoughts? Well, first off, let me start off on the villains. Now, originally, I thought I was going to like Riddle, but after we met him and his M.O., granted, it was a good, tragic backstory. And I do like villains having more depth, i.e. see most of the funny villains and see a lot of my favorite fics. There's this one teeny tiny problem. All of this could have been solved if he had just done, and I know I've stated this before during the live read itself, just asked. I mean, I understand what the author was going for, showing both sides of the villain's conflict, but sadly, it all falters apart when you realize his main goal was get from point A to point B in Meridian. And I know that the book tried to set, and the excuse that, well, he just needed to use the portal, he needed the power so he could pinpoint the location of the portal that was on Meridian. No. Here's the thing. He knew that they were on Meridian. Meridian is a planet. It's a big place. He knew his wife and daughter were sent to Meridian via that portal through his studies. He had no guarantee that his wife and daughter were on the same location that they were when they went to the portal. It had been 10 years, according to him, since they got sent through the portal. 10 years is an awfully long time. I do hope he wasn't expecting them to just sit back, relax, and wait for him in the middle of a forest without grabbing any food or water. They would be dead by that point. So they had to start traveling, and they had to separate. So if he knew that they were in Meridian, and he knew that the portal opened to Meridian, then, and he seemed smart, he knew that they would be traveling. Why the big deal with taking Elion's power, or why does he even think he needed to drain Elion's power in the first place? Heck, he even volunteered to go to Meridian personally to help Matt. So, why not just look at Elion and ask, Elion, after I've done saving Matt, could you please open a fold, take me to Meridian? He even had a knapsack ready. Obviously he was expecting to do some traveling to search for her. So why try to drain all the power away? Why try to drain the power of the heart? Why try to do all this when the easiest thing would have been to knock on Will's door, say hello to Susan, walk over to her and go, oh, hey, my family got taken away to Meridian. Mind opening a portal here and sending me there so that way I can find my wife and kid? I mean, I know sometimes villains are stupid, but this is stupid! There's dumb, and then there's I completely have no idea what I'm doing. He wasted millions of dollars, several years of research, when the easiest thing he could have done was ask. Heck, I wasn't feeling that much emotion over Elia losing her power because I realized the easiest thing in the world could have been, Mr. Riddle, I'm a mother fragging queen. Here, portal to Meridian. Go in. I'll go get a search party. I mean, we've got Mystical Beast here. I'll just grab a couple of searchers. Brainwash Tracker. You got something of your daughters, right? I'll just go Brainwash Tracker. He'll find your daughter in a few minutes. Heck, that's another easy thing he could have done. Could have gone to the portal, asked for Tracker. And remember, people, we have seen that other guys can possess Tracker. Have him bring out that big guard dog, sniff out something of his daughters, and find where she is. And I've got my money in Arya for the first part. Dee was okay, but Dee was a decent villain. But I would have loved to have seen more of him because by near the end of this, once Riddle's whole entire plan and backstory was discovered, I was more focused on him because of his connections with Meridia. I think my other problem with this is that later on, I know that this was a development for them, and I know that technically Elion's also a main character of it, if you want to look at it one way, especially if you go by the comics, is that the second half of this, I could be wrong, but later on, it did feel like the Witch Girls were slowly getting pushed more and more out of the way so we could focus on the Honor Guard and the team. Sadly, kind of ruined part of the fun. That being said, I'm not saying I hate this. Don't get me wrong. I'm just addressing my complaints here. I think my other complaint, I do want to complain about, Irma's connection with Wally, but, Cornelia, but, Irma's had crushes before, so who knows? Maybe in the next season we'll have another chance to develop this relationship more so that way they can have a good bond. But I do like the commentary, and it did work a little bit. But let's see, any other complaints I have before I get to the positives, because I do have a few. I think another major complaint I've had with this beyond that was, of course, near the final fight where the girls were just pushed to the side and allowed the big, strong guys to do this. In case you haven't noticed, this is a sticking point with me, and it does annoy me when I see my strong girls do it. Get thrown to the side and for, the big, strong men. Even when these guys are main characters, I'm feeling down that the girls are all getting pushed aside here. Especially when they all have powers that could easily have made this so much more or less destructive and less civilian causing pain. Very simple. I'm wondering why didn't Tarani, the smart girl, figure out, hey, Irma's got the ability to convince people to do what she wants. Cornelia's got telekinesis. I've got psychic abilities, and Halen has invisibility. We don't really need to cause all destruction. We can just sneak in, walk in, and boom. As a matter of fact, they did this before.
And it's not like they need Will to be close by for them to activate their Civi powers. They've done it before. It's just that they aren't as powerful with Will nearby. We've seen, heck, that's an episode of, that's one of my favorite episodes of season 2 was when they had those nightmares and they had to break into that office in order to stop Will from transferring out of Heatherfield. They all used their civilian powers in ways that allowed them to sneak in. Just to be simple. I guess I'm saying that part of it falters a little bit near the end due to some of these above reasons. But does this mean I hate it? No. This thing has earned its spot on the TV Tropes recommendations list. I'm happy to say. Unlike certain fics, Ultimate Power Rangers. Because for a few good reasons. Number one, despite what I commented about the end part, the 5 girls were in character. The friendships were strong, and I loved the bondings between them. I loved the scenes where they were able to hug and cuddle with each other and always support one another. The girls, of course, always are who they are. Cornelia being sophisticated and glamorous, and of course having a mad crush for Caleb. Helen being funny, Will being intelligent and skilled, Irma, of course, being a snarky little devil, and Tarani being very close and sensitive and emotional about her life. The story flowed at a good brisk pace, although it felt like sometimes it flew by too quick, so that way some of the emotions went by, but it flowed at a good pace. It allowed me to appreciate what was going on in the scenarios. The grammar, for the most part, was well done, even though there were sometimes there were a few run-on sentences, but other than that, it was pretty It was pretty nice. The spelling and everything else just flowed pretty well, and the writer did do a good job of setting everything up for the 4th season, leaving us with some questions and some answers. While at the same time there are still some problems, I feel like some of the goodness does help balance it out, making it a pretty good fic. Not the greatest Witch fic I've ever read, but pretty good, and it did help me satiate my Witch cravings that I've been having ever since I had to watch the ending of Season 2 again for the second time a couple of weeks ago. Made me really anticipating wanting to actually see more and see Season 4 and see where that goes. So, yeah, I do recommend checking it out, just for funsies. Even if you don't love it all the way through, it's still a pretty fun read. And, once again, this is the benefits of all these fanfics. Is when you feel like a show has ended too soon. This type of stuff, we fans can create these additions and make us feel better. Make us feel like we can reunite with the people that we missed. I mean, I've seen this done several times with Satam. Sometimes done really, really well, see the comic, and sometimes done pretty decently. See Robert Brown and Francis Talbot. Oh god, I gotta do that one day. So, next time, well, we won't be doing any Sailor Moon stuff. Oh, no. In case you haven't noticed, next week is Halloween. And well, and I really love the season. So, the next time on Fandom Fridays, we are going to have a little bit of a certain marathon when it comes to the different fics. Yep. Join us next time on Fandom Fridays for the start of October, where we will watch two young men who have lost their mother and now goes off on to find out what happened to her. They are the Hunters. Their names, Sam and Dean Winchester. But that's not all we'll be doing. Oh no. Every generation, there's a chosen one. She alone will stand against the demons, the vampires, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
That's right. We'll be doing mostly Buffy and Supernatural. I'll be seeing you next time!